EDO. They got Megan out of that cabin. That part of the story has a clean ending, in the way that getting someone through a door is always clean compared to what comes after. Because the four of them drove back down the mountain that morning, and the cell service returned right where it had dropped 2 days earlier, and by every measure that matters to a police report or a parent, nothing had happened to any of them that couldn't be explained away by exhaustion and just a long weekend. Megan would tell people, for the rest of that semester, that she didn't remember most of that last night. Not the drawer opening and closing, not the hallway, not the words that came out of her in a voice that none of her friends recognized. She remembered one thing, a single word repeating, with no memory of where it came from. Stay. Welcome back to The Devil Within. This is the Campfire Files, true stories that followed them home. And this is the final episode of our case file, The Board. What stayed? If you're just joining us, please go back and start with part 1. The story's been building towards something specific, and I don't want you walking in at the end of it. This is the last stop on this case file, but not the last stop on the season. If the story got under your skin even a little, follow the show wherever you get your podcasts so the next drop finds you. Leave a review if you've only got 30 seconds. It's the easiest way to help a story like this reach someone who needs to hear it. My favorite poem from Poe is Annabel Lee. In it he writes, "For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee." Poe wrote that poem about a love that outlasted the body it belonged to, something that kept arriving uninvited on a schedule that it set for itself. That's the right frame for closing this story, because what stayed behind in that cabin wasn't rage and it wasn't malice. By every account given, it simply didn't want to be alone, and it didn't understand why anyone would choose to leave it that way. And that's a quieter kind of horror than some kind of monster or ghost. It's the horror of being wanted by something that you can't let want you back. Chapter 1. What it left behind. The dream started 3 days after Megan got home to Kansas City. 4 hours and one state line from the cabin, in an apartment with working locks and overhead lights and absolutely nothing that should have followed her. The dream was always the same shape, herself in a space that she couldn't fully see and something nearby that wasn't hostile exactly, just present, waiting on her the way you wait outside a door for someone to finish getting ready. She told 2 people. One suggested therapy, which she eventually pursued. The other suggested she stop reading about Ouija boards online, which she had been doing compulsively in the weeks after the trip. What she found in that research was part of this story that most listeners ask about. Leah, 19. A name and an age with no clean answer attached to it, no missing person that Megan could find, no obituary, no local story that matched. Just a name that arrived too fast to be invented and too specific to be nothing. The land itself offered no answers either, and to be fair to the people who once called those mountains home, it shouldn't have to. The Cherokee who hid in these ridges in the 1830s to avoid the Trail of Tears, they weren't hurting anyone, they weren't haunting anyone, they were surviving. And their descendants still live there today as the eastern band of the Cherokee Nation, a fact that this story wants to be careful and very clear about. Whatever answered that board wasn't their story. It used the same hills to stay hidden that real people once used to stay alive, and that's where the comparison starts and also where it ends. What Leah was, if anything other than the letters that slid across the board, remains exactly what it was the night it was discovered, unclaimed, unexplained, but present. The dream stopped after about 6 weeks, and Megan still doesn't fully trust that they're gone. Chapter 2. What stayed? The cabin outside Boone is still a working rental. People still book it. Sure, sometimes it's discounted last minute the same way Megan once did. Other times they get full price. The listing makes no mention of anything unusual because as far as the owners know, there's nothing to mention. Chris went back one time, 8 months later, with a different group of sports friends who didn't know the story that happened there, and he didn't tell them. He said later that he wanted to see if the feeling in that house was something that he'd built up in his own head over a bad weekend or something that lived in the place itself. He said the bookshelf where Tyler originally found the game was empty. No box, no board, nothing rectangular worn soft at the corners waiting to be found by someone who wasn't looking for it. He told himself that was a good thing. He told himself a lot of things that weekend. On the second night, his phone buzzed on the nightstand just past 3 a.m. There's no contact name, just a number he didn't recognize, and a one-word text. Stay. You know, Chris, he didn't text back, he didn't show anyone. He packed up the next morning, left a day early, and when his friends asked why, he said he was sick. He felt like he was coming down with something and didn't want to get anybody else sick. Megan, Sarah, and Tyler have not been back to the cabin, and they have no plans to go back. They talk about that weekend rarely, and when they do, it's in the careful, glancing way people talk about things that they've agreed not to fully revisit. Megan still doesn't remember the last night in full. The others remember all of it, but none of them have tried to force the issue. What's left of this story is a board game that nobody can find anymore, a name with no history attached to it, and a message that arrived 8 months later to a man who never told anyone that he was scared. Some things don't need you to invite them twice. They just need you to answer once. Those mountains have spent nearly 2 centuries holding things that people wanted to keep hidden and things people were forced to leave behind. And the two aren't the same kind of disappearance. And this story has tried to keep that distinction clear throughout. The Cherokee who used those ridgelines in 1838 were choosing survival over removal. Whatever answered that board game in 2018 was choosing something else. Attention, company, a reason to keep 4 strangers a little longer than they'd planned to stay. What both have in common is only this: the land kept its silence either way. It doesn't explain. It just holds whatever's put into it and waits to see who comes looking. One last line from The Raven from Edgar Allan Poe. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart and take thy form from off my door. That's the plea underneath every account in this story. Not the fear of the thing itself, but the exhausting, specific horror of trying to get something to leave once it has decided on its own terms that it would rather stay. Next time on The Devil Within, you pick up a rental car. You assume it's empty. You assume it's clean. You assume it's yours for a few days. But what if it isn't? And what if something inside that car never got out? That's next time on the Campfire Files from The Devil Within. Thanks for listening to this installment of the Campfire Files from The Devil Within. We'll see you next time. The Devil Within is an EVO production recorded live at Bel Air Studios in Los Angeles, California. For The Devil Within, I'm your writer and host, Brandon Morgan.